Motherfucking middle finger up in this bitch. ATL, St. Louis, Alabama, Chicago, the Carolinas, DC, Bay Area, Miami, New York, Vegas, Texas. Y'all niggas can't fuck up my niggas home. 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 Motherfuck that nigga, motherfuck that bitch. 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 Y'all niggas more flexing that, flaunting that.
Yeah, no, man. You already know exactly what time it is. We're back here to serve small game on the ground for them hungry hounds who just got the pound and are ready for the next round. So with that being said, make sure y'all grab your snacks, y'all drinks, y'all weed, whatever the fuck the case may be, because we finna jump right into this B-Hinatch. With that being said, y'all can see the title of this episode today. We're going to be checking out, we're not going to watch the whole thing, but we're going to be checking out an interview that your boy Top G did, Andrew Tate, with Michael Franzese. So with that being said, man, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this episode. Let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. Boom, boom, and boom. Go ahead and bring this back here. Pull this up on out of here. Bam, just like that, with that being said. All right, we're going to jump into this episode in 3, 2, 1, go.
And they don't benefit the country in any way at all, ever.
Not only do they not benefit the country, but they're in such a minority. And yet our leadership now panders to them like they're the most important people in the world.
Yep.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. That's, and I try to understand what their motive is on this. I can't understand it.
I think their motive is primarily to just damage society at every level. I think, and once again, not to be pessimistic, but not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I believe they've come to the conclusion that the American experiment is on its way out. The empire is falling across the next 50 to 60 years. They want to enrich themselves as much as possible, like a typical crypto pump and dump or stock Ponzi scheme. And they're trying to divide society to the point where we don't realize what they're doing and demasculinize as many men as possible so we don't resist what they're doing. And they find any agenda they can to purport, which will damage our capability of resisting it. So they're going to come along and do all this garbage. I did a podcast recently. I was talking about trans swimmers in female sports. And we were talking about how ridiculous it all is. And after about an hour in, I was like, the truly upsetting thing is that they've managed to convince some of the smartest, most eloquent, most interesting people on the planet who have podcasts to sit down and discuss whether a man should be allowed to swim with women. We're not talking about the fact that the fiat currency is a scam, that the judicial system's a scam, that the elections are a scam. We're talking about some swimmer with male genitalia destroying female swimmers. That's what they want, because they've put up such a smokescreen of garbage that we're sitting here trying to go through the garbage. And the only reason we have to do that is because there is a proportion of the population who are so slave-minded. They're slave-minded. Mm-hmm. They will believe anything they are told, anything they are said. So you end up having to argue against, like you said, this very vocal minority of 15% of whoever they are who truly believe that a man with a wig is a woman. And while we do that, they just plunder until it all explodes. And it's the patriot in me is heartbroken. It really makes me sad.
Well, I agree.
That's facts, bro. Everybody sits around and argues about the dumbest shit, like the dumbest shit ever. And it keeps them distracted. That's what they want them to. That's what they want everybody to focus on, is the dumb bullshit, like a dude swimming, like a dude competing in female sports, or a female competing in dude sports. That's what the fuck they want people to focus on, instead of really what actually was going on behind the curtains.
The hypocrisy and all of that is we have a country that's supposed to be standing strongly for women's rights.
Yeah.
Until you get a trans involved, and then you don't hear anything about the women anymore.
Absolutely.
And it's so absurd.
Yep.
A man cannot compete with a woman.
Yep.
Shouldn't compete with a woman. A woman can't compete with him in sports like that. It's a known fact, but yet they're forcing it on everybody there. And it's, what gets me, Andrew, more than anything? Listen, I was on the street. I was a gangster for 20 years. I make no bones about it. That's who I was. But that's who I was. I admit to it.
Yep.
That's who I was. The hypocrisy in these people right now is what gets me more than anything. They're such frauds and they're such liars. They get up there, and you know what would get me? Politicians get up there now daily. A daily basis. They had a thing, I read an article, in 17 minutes, Biden got on the air and lied 15 times. They fact check him, 15 lies in 17 minutes. And you talk to people about that and they say, well, it's politics. I said, it's not politics, it's lying.
Yep.
If your partner lies to you once, maybe twice, third time, fourth time, you're done.
100%.
These guys lie to you every single day and you support it. You say it's politics. It's not, it's lying. And the worst part about it, they lie to the detriment of the people that they're supposed to be benefiting.
Yep.
And that's why I've been ranting and raving about it. I almost lost my tour in the United Kingdom because of this whole thing. I have to believe that I've been very vocal, like you, speaking up for what we think is right. Yep. And they're coming after you for it. That's the bottom line.
Well, absolutely, because your ability to speak freely.
That's a fact too, bro. They call lying politics. You know, Tom McDonald said it best. He said, when you lie to the government, they put you in prison. But when they lie to all of us, it's called being a politician. He wasn't lying when he said that shit, bro. That was some of the most fact shit that he said in one of his songs. And he just said it right here too. You know, they lie to you and make you think it's the truth. The truth ain't the truth no more. The truth is what you can make people believe. Charleston White said that one. But that's a fact, bro. And it's a damn shame how so many people will still sit there and believe it, and how so many people will still sit there and fucking support it too. It's crazy.
Is directly correlated to your insignificance.
Yeah.
You can talk if nobody listens.
Yeah.
If people start to listen, you have to be careful what you say.
Exactly.
And then they'll come along and say, oh, this is a free country. Yeah, you can say what you want. And then they'll attack you anyway if you say things they don't like. The free speech psyop. Well, it's very interesting what you said about lying in politics. I want to talk about that in a second. But the free speech psyop is interesting because America as a country is unified by two things. One is money. And two is this idea of freedom, which doesn't truly exist, I believe. But other nations may be unified by a language or a color or a flag or a national interest, whatever. But America is unified by the idea that most people believe they can get rich one day. And they're unified by this idea that they are freer than everybody else. So I think to keep this scam alive, they have to allow people to do stupid things they can't do in other places. Because you can't truly criticize from a vocal platform the leadership without getting wrecked. That's the same in every country in the world. America's no better. So to pretend they're better than a country like Saudi or Russia, they'll say, but you can change your name and put a wig on. So we're free.
Yeah.
So they'll allow you to do insignificant garbage, but they won't allow you to stand up and do anything that's important. And then they'll say, but we're free because look at this garbage you can do that nobody wants to do anyway, unless they're psyoped into it. It's really interesting what you said about politics and liars. That's the ultimate slave mind. When you say people go, it's politics. They've got us to a point now where we think it's perfectly acceptable and perfectly normal for the people that we hire to represent us to just lie the entire time.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's fraud, isn't it? I don't know. You're representing my constituency and you vote against our interests every single time.
100% fraud. 100%. Listen, and again, some people say, well, Michael, you were in the mob. I said, exactly. But I didn't pretend to be, fighting for the people. Yeah. We were fighting for ourselves at that point in time. Yeah. However, I will tell you this. We treated people better than they treat us.
100%.
100%. Our communities were safe. Our neighborhoods were safe. We didn't prey on innocent people. Yeah. These people, okay, they lie. They get on a campaign. They say this and that. They get in the office. They totally reverse themselves to the detriment of the people that put them in office. And to me, there's nothing worse than that, Andrew. Nothing worse.
I agree. And then the only way this makes sense is if you look at the political landscape and you understand who they actually work for. Because people say, why are they doing this? I hear often people say, politicians, they're just stupid. If they're so stupid, how come they're in charge of you?
Yeah, they're not stupid.
They're not stupid. You think.
Man, that's a fact, bro. People underestimate the mind that politicians have. And it's not because they're stupid. It's because they're doing what they're told so they can be paid. They are willfully and knowingly doing what they're told to do so they can be paid. To them, they're the smartest fucking people on the planet. In their mind, in your mind, you might think they're retarded, but you're not looking at who's above the politicians. See, a lot of people sit around and think that they're fucking, the politicians are the top of the top people in the country. No, there's always somebody higher. There's always a bigger fish. Always a bigger fish.
They work for you. That's your confusion. You think they represent you. And you're like, why are they doing all these things? That's against my interest. Because you're not their concern. They work for somebody else. Exactly. And they're passing laws for their interest. The people who make rules to benefit the people who make the rules. They don't make the rules to benefit the common average person. I catch myself doing this. A lot of the things I talk about in the world and how I view things. And I'd really be interested in your input on this because I came from absolutely nothing and now I have a little bit of money. And I occasionally catch myself being elitist. Like if I meet someone and we've had the same amount of minutes of life and I managed to be monumentally successful and they can't pay their bills because they were too busy smoking weed, I don't feel sorry for them very much. I'm actually like, well, you're an idiot. You could have found a way out. You could have tried harder. There's always a way. You didn't try hard enough. And if you extrapolate that out, I'm somebody who was only poor 10 years ago. Imagine you're born into a banking dynasty. Imagine you're born into a lineage of people who have always been rich. Imagine how you're going to view the common man. Mm-hmm. They think we're cockroaches. They don't care about us. They have no concern for us on any level because they believe they're completely different. They're in a different class. They don't believe in nation states because they're globalists. They're above us in every way. They print the thing that we all slave around and run around for, money. So of course they have no concern for us. So when they get a politician in power and they get him to pass laws that are to our detriment, it doesn't cross their mind that that's not what they should do. For the same reason, I'll make a law or I'll make a decision in my house that'll be detriment to the ants outside. I don't care. It's my house and it's their world. And this is the reality of it. And I don't know, I'm very interested in how that ties into your story with the mob and getting big and getting rich and getting famous. Did you ever get to a point where you're just like, you know what, you common people, I don't want to talk to you anymore?
You get to that point. Not that you don't want to talk to them, but listen, we have a tendency to pity people, feel sorry for people. In our country, everybody has an opportunity to do something. There's no question about it. And you got to look at somebody's past. If, like you said, they're laying around and they're waiting for somebody to do something for them and expecting something to happen, depending upon the government, well, I don't have any pity for that. You know, I don't. I see so many people like yourself that started with nothing and made them successful, but they worked hard. And they took advantage of the system when they could, which is what you're supposed to do. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's natural. You know,
Good. I had to check myself there.
No, you're okay there.
And another thing I think that's getting scary about the world, which is also an interesting thing, and perhaps.
See, it's an interesting thing that he said. A couple of things that he said. He said he had to check himself on sometimes the way he thinks, you know, because, and that's how you can tell that Andrew is a genuine guy. He's a genuine man. When he starts thinking a certain way, and he has to check himself on it because he thinks, or if he feels like it might not be the right way to think, so he asks somebody else, you know, is that even right to think like that? You know, a lot of people who are quote unquote elitist, or people who were born broke and came up into the quote unquote elite league, I guess you could say, will sit around and think of themselves as such elitist people, you know, and then they'll look at everybody else like they're fucking nobody, and obviously they are nobody, but they forget where they came from, you know, and you know, so it's just interesting how he checks himself on sometimes the way he thinks. It's interesting, man. Not very many rich people, quote unquote rich people, do that, you know, like celebrities, for example. There's a lot of them that sit around and think that oh well, I'm this, so guess what, I don't give a fuck about you, fuck you, what the fuck are you, you know? Andrew's like, no, I remember where the fuck I came from, you know? He has to check himself, and people oftentimes need to check themselves more than they do.
This is a modern thing. I don't know, but I see a lot of these crimes and a lot of things happening, and I particularly pay attention to British crime because I feel more British than American. I spend most of my time there, and you see stabbings on trains and all of these crazy things happening every single day, shootings, and London's getting really bad. And I was talking to someone and I said, we're at the point now where you almost just have to avoid broke people. And I'm not saying that in a horrible way. I'm saying you can't get on a train because there's someone on that train who can't pay their bills and is on the edge. That's just the reality of it. You can see it. Someone bumps into them and they just pull a blade and start stabbing people. You can't walk around in crowds. You can't go where there's huge gatherings because there ends up being a murder or a stabbing or a riot. It's getting to the point where you become more elitist because you're saying, well, I just need to avoid all of the people who don't have a lot of money, and I can avoid 99.9% of the world's problems besides the government, because then they come for you. But it's getting that way. And I don't feel like, you'll know better than me, that the world used to be that way. The common man would be a good person and everything was fine and they loved their family and they had a degree of respect. But in certain towns in England, especially now, if you try and go anywhere and people aren't affluent, they've lost all sense of morality. They just think, oh, okay, well, it just becomes a free-for-all. And it's dangerous. It's getting more and more dangerous to be around or just do a common thing or a normal thing. Public transport, malls, anything. It's getting crazy out there.
Let me ask you a question. Is that, in your view, because there are no consequences for these people?
I think,
or they've been minimized to a degree where they can get away with it?
That's certainly part of it. But I do believe that humans are,
you know, he makes a good point. There's so much more bullshit that's going on nowadays with the, you know, the quote unquote common people. They sit around, you know, you see a lot more of it. People getting ran over, people getting shot up, people getting stabbed, this and that happening, all types of shit. And it does. And it's not going on at literally every fucking city. And there's a lot of cities that makes that dangerous for you to sit there and go grocery shopping, or for you to sit there and go out to get something to eat with your family, or whatever the case may be that you're trying to do. It makes it dangerous because there's always that possibility of that shit happening to you as a common person, just because somebody might not like the way you look. It's crazy, bro. It's crazy, but it's facts.
Are intrinsically good. And I think that as we're divided further and further down the scale, which is what's happening, we just end up finding an enemy of some kind. I believe that when you remove the homogeny of society, whether it be race, religion, anything, when you have nothing at all to unify or bind people anymore, you add on the pressure of people not being able to pay their bills. You add on the pressure of people slowly realizing how unfair this world is and how unfair all the systems we're supposed to believe in are. I think there's just a lot of pressure on people to just, I don't think a lot of people can take pressure. You can talk from jail. We can talk about our jail. There's a lot of people who wake up and they say, let's take it this way. If you're an immigrant, let's say, and I don't know this, I'm just guessing, because I try and put myself in other people's positions, right? I try and pretend I'm them. If I was an immigrant and I grew up in a strictly Islamic country in a war zone, I'm going to be battle hardened because I've seen terrible things happen. And I'm going to have this view of the West as this utopia of beautiful women and money and all this other garbage, right? And I'm going to leave my land. I'm going to go to England, and I'm going to realize that, one, I don't have really very much money. Other people may have some money, but I don't. 2, nobody really wants to give me a job because I don't have the work ethic they expect of me. 3, the women don't look at me as anything. So all these women who I have a bad view of, I view them as promiscuous because that's what I've seen in the music videos. Yeah. And I go up to them and I'm like, hey, and they're like, go away from me. That offends me. What do you mean go away? Why are you telling me to go away? Because I have this promiscuous view in my mind. You put me with 10 other guys who have no job and we stand around on the corner all day. Like, well, how is this going to end anything other than crime? How is this going to end any other way? Because you get to a point, especially when you tell them the punishment for what happens to them is probably better than how they lived at home. You're going to say, well, get rich or die trying. And that's inside of every single man anyway. So when you add in the war zone and these other societal levels and these other psychological levels, they just don't care anymore. And how can you police that? How can you stop that? It's scary because the police come afterwards. They can't. It's the police come afterwards. That's the problem with all of this.
Well, you know what? In America now, they don't even want the police to come. I mean, it's gotten so bad. You know, people have said to me, they had this whole movement. I don't know if you remember when it was defunding the police. And
genius idea.
You know, I said to them, I said, let me ask you a question. You know, Michael, what do you think about it? You know, you don't like the police. Just stop for a minute. Let me ask you a question. I'm on the street again, right? I'm doing what I'm doing. Rudy Giuliani, everybody knows him. He comes to me, he says, Michael, don't worry about it. You know, if we lock you up on a RICO case, you're going to get out right away. We're not going to give you any bail. No problem. You know, and don't worry about it. Maybe we'll give you a year in jail. Do you think I'm going to become a better person when I hear that, when I'm a criminal to begin with? Of course not.
Yeah.
When there's no consequences to your actions, you're going to go wild.
Yeah.
And that's what they don't understand. You need law and order. And I think you believe that also. You've got to have law and order. There's no question about it. And when we're talking about this, and Andrew, I want to be clear with people. We're saying these things because we see something going wrong and we want to fix it. You know, when I go on a rant about our government, because I see them lying and I see them doing it to the detriment of the people, and that's why I get upset, because I happen to love my country.
Yep.
You know, I was born and raised there. Hey, you know, I did what I did, but I understand when I went to jail, I deserved to go to jail back then, you know, different than you.
Yep.
I deserved it when I went to jail, but I love my country. I got 7 kids. I got 7 grandkids. I want the country to be right.
Absolutely.
And when I see these people doing what they're doing and destroying the United States is going down.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you something. If we get another 4 years of this Biden progressive stuff, we're in a lot of time.
I think it's the last chance.
It's it. I'm telling you, it's over.
It's the last chance. And it's really actually.
That's facts, bro. It's literally like the final stand type shit. It's like the final countdown type shit, bro. If it like he ain't even lying, bro. He ain't even lying. He ain't even lying. That's why it's important that people like you got to stand up for what's right. You got to stand up for how it's supposed to be versus how they want it to be. See, it's the thing that people don't understand, that the leadership system, that's what I'm going to call it, leadership system, is vastly outnumbered by the people that they're leading. So if the people can finally fucking understand that shit and come together and work as a team, they can overthrow the leadership system. But they're so divided in the bullshit, like what they were talking about earlier, like a fucking dude participating in female sports or some stupid bullshit like that, or the police, defund the police and all that other bullshit. They're so divided and focused on those things that they can't come together until they realize that we outnumber them. It's never gonna happen. That's why it's like this is like the final stand type shit, bro.
Actually a very interesting argument, because I completely agree with Law and Order, and I completely agree with what you're saying. When I got out of jail, I was analyzing, because I'm a very lucky person. God has blessed me with the experience of the Romanian judicial system. So I'm trying to understand other judicial systems around the world. And I was like, well, where is fair? And you start to like go down the rabbit hole a bit. Mm-hmm. And you see that there's a lot of countries that have completely different ethoses when it comes to justice. So the American idea and the British idea, the Western idea of justice is innocent until proven guilty. That's the basic idea of justice. In countries like Romania, it's more, everyone goes to jail for a while. Everybody. If you're even remotely suspected of anything, everybody goes to jail for a while. And then we'll let you out. And then in the end, unless you've really done something, you're probably going to go home. So theirs is more scattergun. It's more, you looked in a car window. We didn't break in, but you're looking in. And there was a car break-in yesterday. Tough.
It might be you.
Yeah, that's how they work. Yeah. Now, that obviously comes with detriment, because you end up in jail with a bunch of people who perhaps don't belong in jail. But then I look at the society here. We're in the poorest country in Europe. I walk around with $1 million watch. I had a $5 million Bugatti. I'd park it on the street. Women walk home alone at night. It's so ridiculously safe because everyone fears the law. So perhaps it's detrimental, yes. And when you're in the cell, you're like, why am I here? But if you're not emotional about the fact you got caught up in it and you look around, you're like, well, society does function. People always talk about Japan and say, Japan's so safe, Japan's so great, Japan's amazing.
That's one thing that he said. He said that you look the example that he used. You're looking in the window and there was a car breaking in. You didn't look into it. You didn't break into it, but you might have done it. We don't know that you did it, but you might have done it. So we're gonna throw you in jail. they have the system set up like that because they profit off of inmates. The more inmates they have, the more profit that they make. So they're trying to get as many inmates as they possibly can. Whether or not you're innocent or guilty, they don't give a damn. You're putting money in their pockets, which is crazy. But that's how that shit's set up.
Amazing. Yeah, because there's a 99% conviction rate.
Yeah.
You telling me that innocent people aren't going to jail with a 99% conviction rate?
100%.
What's the even point of the court? The court doesn't exist. You turn up. I did it. Yeah. Jail. Yeah. Jail. Same what happened to me. I went there and I said, TikTok, how can you human traffic someone on TikTok? TikTok doesn't even make money. Yeah. Jail. They don't care. So you either fear the law or you have to fear the criminals. In the worst countries on earth, and perhaps we could say this is America currently, you have to fear both because the law will come for you if you're too big and you're telling too much truth. And the criminals will come after you if you're too rich. So you're living there with two enemies.
Right.
You know, that's the worst position to be in. At least in a country like Japan, you know, as long as I don't upset the law, I'll probably be okay.
Yeah, right. Let me tell you what happened to you. It's the same way that guys in organized crime, same thing happens. I'll tell you what happened. Normally a crime is committed and they go out and investigate and find out who the perpetrators are, right? When you get to be somebody like yourself, there isn't a crime. They're investigating you, trying to figure out if you did anything wrong.
Correct.
It goes the opposite way.
Yeah.
And that's what they do with guys like us.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a bad guy. Let's figure out what he did.
Yeah.
So they start investigating, surveillance, all that, until they can nail you with something. That's what happened to you. I've said this to many people. I said, you don't understand it. You don't know the system, whether you're Romania, US, or it's the same thing. When you get high profile like that, this is what they do.
100%. They do not get.
And the reason why they do that is because when you're, you know, like Andrew, for example, Andrew and Tristan, when you have such a high profile like them, or Trump, when you have such a high profile like them, you are you're not bought out by them. You're not bought out by them. So they can't control you. That's why they come after you. So yeah, man, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end this right here. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. Make sure y'all share with your friends, your families, mummies, aunties, your grannies, and everybody else y'all know. That being said, I'm gonna play this outro and get the hell up out of here. Deuces.
Hey, it was a fun tour. Going out here and all this shit all over fucking USA, and I'm done with all this shit. I'm cool off all this fucking talking shit. I got a whole team to represent. I don't want to do none of this. I never did want to do any of it. Fuck this nigga and fuck his team, bro. I'm out. I gotta go. Square up with yourself, motherfucker.